Okay, so in this question, they're asking you to classify the following expressions as linear or non-linear. I've written some steps over in the right-hand side, and basically what it says there is step 1 is simplify the equation as much as you can. So if you're adding or subtracting terms, we have to make sure they're like terms, but if we're multiplying or dividing, we have to think about index laws. So the questions that we have here are all addition and subtraction. So if I look at the first one, I've got 8a plus 2, and there's not a lot that I can do to simplify that. So in fact, there's nothing we can do to simplify that. Keeping in mind that this first term is 8a, which means you can only add or subtract to that something else that has an a in it. So if the second term was in fact 2a, we could add those together to be 10a, but we can't because the 2 is a standalone 2. So therefore, step 1 is just simplify the equation as much as we can, and in this case it's going to be 8a plus 2, and we can't go any further. Step 2 is identify the powers. So we only have one power here, and that is on the a, and if there is no power, it's going to be to the power of 1. Okay. Step 3, if the power is 1, then the equation is linear, and if the power is anything other than 1, then it's nonlinear. So because we have the power of 1, we can say that is going to be a linear equation. Okay, let's have a look at 4b. So in 4b, let's go back to our steps. So our step 1 over here is going to be simplify the equation as much as we can. Remembering, if we're adding or subtracting, we have to collect like terms. So let's take a look at equation number b, or letter b. The first term is 3y. The second term is negative 2y, and then the third term is 4. Okay, so because the two y's are like terms, we can actually complete that. So 3y take 2y is going to leave us with 1y, which we can also just call y. And then and then we can just bring down our 4. So that's going to be plus 4. And then, of course, another way of writing that is simply we can drop the 1 off and we can just call it y plus 4. So that's step 1 complete. Step 2, identify the powers. So again, in this case, we only have one power. Just going to change the colour. My y, so we only give powers to our variables or our unknowns. And in this case, our y is to the power of 1, which takes us to step 3. And because it is the power of 1, we can say that is linear. Okay, let's take a look at C, following the same steps again. So simplify the equation as much as we can. And again, we are taking away 2 terms. And so we need to make sure that we're collecting like terms. Now, let's take a look at 2w. And our other term is w squared. Now, these are not like terms because they have different powers. So we can't actually do anything with that. So it is actually in its simplest form. So let's move on to step 2, which is identify the powers. In this case, we do have a power of 2. And go to step 3. We know that if a power is anything other than 1, then the equation is not linear. So we can say that this is non-linear. So I think if you follow those 3 steps, that's going to help you in this process of simplifying your equations.